January 17th, 1943. 35,000 feet above the frozen Rhine Valley. The air is so thin it burns the lungs. Inside the cramped plexiglass nose of a B-17 Flying Fortress, Bombardier Lieutenant James McCarthy hunches over a device that looks like a mechanical brain. A maze of gyroscopes, mirrors, and gears encased in olive drab metal. His breath fogs the freezing air. Through the bombsight's eyepiece, the German industrial city of Schweinfurt appears as a gray smudge against white snow 5 miles below. His fingers, numb despite heated gloves, make microscopic adjustments to brass knobs. The bomber shudders. Flak bursts bloom black and orange around them like deadly flowers. But McCarthy doesn't flinch. His entire world has collapsed into that circular glass view where a single crosshair must align with a single factory building. In 90 seconds, he will release 2 tons of high explosive. And if the device cradled before him works as promised, those bombs will strike within 50 feet of his aim point, a precision the German High Command has declared physically impossible at this altitude, at this speed, through this chaos. The Norden Mark 15 bombsight weighs 50 pounds. It costs more than a new automobile, $8,000 in 1943 dollars, nearly $140,000 today. Each one is guarded like a nuclear weapon. Before every mission, bombardiers swear a blood oath. If the aircraft goes down, destroy the Norden first, even before saving yourself. Capture means court-martial. The device is so secret that ground crews are forbidden to examine it. When bombers return to base, armed guards immediately cover each bombsight with canvas tarps. At night, they are locked in vaults requiring 2 officers with separate keys. The Navy calls it the football. The Army Air Forces calls it the most important weapon in the European theater. Carl Norden, its Dutch-born inventor, calls it the arbiter of civilization. Reichsmarschall Hermann Göring calls it American fantasy. In the winter of 1943, Germany's faith in its own invulnerability rests on a simple mathematical certainty. High-altitude precision bombing, the entire strategic doctrine of the United States Army Air Forces, is aerodynamically impossible. German engineers have calculated the variables. A bomber flying at 25,000 feet travels at 180 miles per hour. A 500-pound bomb falls for approximately 40 seconds. During that fall, wind pushes it. Temperature gradients bend its trajectory. The bomb tumbles, creating unpredictable drag. The aircraft itself vibrates, making steady aim impossible. By the time ordnance impacts Earth, it should land anywhere within a quarter-mile radius of the aim point. You might hit a city. You might hit a factory district. But hit a specific building? Strike a ball-bearing plant or synthetic oil refinery with surgical accuracy? Preposterous. Even the British, America's closest ally, have abandoned daylight precision bombing as suicide. The RAF now flies at night, area bombing entire cities, accepting that accuracy means hitting the correct postal code. Yet, here come the Americans, in their silver fortresses, in broad daylight, claiming their bombsight can drop ordnance into a pickle barrel from 5 miles up. Göring laughs at intelligence reports. His staff laughs. The laughter stops on August 17, 1943. The invention begins not with war, but with obsession. Carl Norden arrives in America in 1904, a Swiss-educated engineer fleeing European stagnation. He finds work at Sperry Gyroscope Company, where he becomes fascinated by a problem that haunts early aviation: stability. Aircraft bank, pitch, and yaw. The human hand cannot compensate quickly enough. Norden dreams of a mechanical mind that thinks faster than turbulence, that sees what human eyes cannot, the mathematical truth beneath chaos. In 1920, the U.S. Navy approaches him. They want a bombsight for their new doctrine: sink battleships from aircraft. Existing sights are adapted telescope scopes, requiring the bombardier to estimate wind, estimate speed, estimate altitude, then guess when to release. Accuracy averages 15%. 85% of ordnance simply churns ocean. Norden disappears into his laboratory for 11 years. What emerges in 1931 is not merely a bomb sight. It is an analog computer that performs calculus in real time. The Mark 15 contains 2,000 precision parts, gears cut to tolerances of 1/10,000th of an inch, gyroscopes spinning at 9,000 RPM, stabilized by motors that compensate for every tremor of the aircraft. The bombardier inputs altitude, airspeed, wind direction, air temperature, and bomb ballistics. Then the Norden takes over. Its gyroscopes lock onto the target, immune to the aircraft's movement. Its mechanical computer continuously recalculates trajectory, accounting for wind drift, air density changes, even the curvature of the Earth on long bomb runs. In the final 30 seconds before release, the bombsight actually flies the aircraft, sending electrical signals to the autopilot, making adjustments no human pilot could execute. The bombardier becomes merely an intermediary between the machine's vision and its will. In testing at Muroc Dry Lake in 1938, Norden demonstrates 95% accuracy, bombs falling within a 100-foot circle from 20,000 feet. Observers are speechless. General Henry Hap Arnold, Chief of the Army Air Corps, realizes he is witnessing a revolution. For the first time in human history, aerial bombardment can be a scalpel, not a club. America can bomb factories, not cities, can destroy war-making capacity while sparing civilian populations, can wage war, in theory, with mathematical morality. The Norden transforms American strategic doctrine overnight. The entire justification for building massive fleets of four-engine bombers, the B-17, the B-24, rests on this 50-pound box. Without it, strategic bombing is just expensive terrorism. Carl Norden himself speaks with messianic certainty. "My invention will make war impossible," he tells reporters in 1940. When nations know that a single bomber can destroy a single factory with certainty, they will understand that modern war cannot be won. Aggression will become obsolete. He envisions a future where the Norden bombsight, like the machine gun before it, makes conflict so devastating that humanity abandons it entirely. His calculus, like Germany's, is perfect. His understanding of human nature is not. The Luftwaffe first encounters the Norden over Wilhelmshaven on January 27, 1943. The target is U-boat construction yards, massive reinforced concrete pens where submarines are assembled before stalking the Atlantic. 53 B-17s of the 306th Bombardment Group arrive at noon, 23,000 feet up, in tight formation. German fighter pilots expect the usual chaos, American bombers scattered by flak, dumping ordnance randomly, fleeing for England. Instead, the B-17s fly straight and level through the flak barrage as if on railroad tracks. They do not deviate. Bombs release not in panicked clusters, but in precise intervals, walking across the target in a mathematical line. When the smoke clears, 3 submarine pens are obliterated. Not damaged, obliterated. Direct hits on structures designed to withstand 500-pound bombs. The Germans recover several unexploded American weapons. Ordnance disposal teams measure crater patterns. Impact points form a pattern less than 200 feet across. At that altitude, in combat, under fire, physically impossible. Luftwaffe intelligence briefs Goering. He orders the report rewritten. American bombers scattered ordnance across the port district. But the photographs do not lie. And they keep coming. February 4th, Emden. The locomotive works takes 18 direct hits. February 16th, Saint-Nazaire. The submarine base experiences catastrophic structural failure. March 18th, Bremen. Focke-Wulf aircraft factories burn. German engineers examine reconnaissance photos with magnifying glasses, measuring bomb patterns, calculating probability. The Americans are achieving 40 to 50% accuracy in combat conditions, unheard of, unbelievable, and undeniable. What breaks German confidence is not the destruction, but the method. Luftwaffe pilots report that American bombardiers appear to fly the aircraft during bomb runs. The B-17s make tiny course corrections that no pilot could execute manually. Small banks, micro-adjustments, a smoothness that suggests mechanical control. One Messerschmitt pilot, Franz Stiegler, reports in his debriefing, "They do not fly like men evading death. They fly like machines executing a program." The implication terrifies German planners more than the bombs themselves. If the Americans have automated accuracy, then no target is safe. Not the ball-bearing plants at Schweinfurt, not the synthetic oil refineries in the Ruhr, not the rail marshalling yards that feed the Eastern Front. Every factory, every bridge, every critical node in Germany's war economy has become vulnerable to destruction by a device that thinks in mathematics and does not feel fear. The German response is frantic reverse engineering. When a B-17 named Mi Amigo crashes near Sheffield, England in February 1943, German intelligence agents attempt to bribe British salvage crews for the bomb site. The British, who initially dismissed the Norden as American exaggeration, now guard the wreckage with infantry platoons. Goering offers 50,000 Reichsmarks for an intact Norden, more money than a Luftwaffe fighter pilot earns in 10 years. None surface. Every crashed American bomber yields the same discovery. The bomb site is destroyed, sometimes by explosive charges, sometimes by bombardiers who use their sidearms on the device before bailing out. One B-24 shot down over Austria in April 1943 contains a bombardier's body still in the nose section, his right hand clutching a thermite grenade, the Norden beneath him a molten slag heap. He had died destroying it. What the Germans do not understand, what they cannot understand, is that the Norden's power comes not from secrecy, but from industrial capacity. Even if they captured one intact, even if their engineers reverse-engineered every gear and gyroscope, Germany cannot build Nordens. Each bomb site requires 2,000 precision parts manufactured to tolerances German industry abandoned in 1941 to mass-produce Panzer tanks and Messerschmitt fighters. The Norden demands peacetime manufacturing standards in a nation fully mobilized for total war. Barth Manufacturing Corporation in New York employs 600 specialized machinists who do nothing but cut gears for Norden bomb sites, each worker taking 3 months to train. The gyroscopes require jewel bearings, synthetic rubies grown in laboratories polished by hand to optical perfection. America produces 10,000 Norden bomb sites during the war. Germany, even with captured plans, could not produce 100. But the real revelation comes not from the device itself, but from what it reveals about American doctrine. German bombing doctrine, inherited from the Spanish Civil War and perfected over Warsaw and Rotterdam, relies on terror. Bombers dive, attack civilian centers, break morale. It wins campaigns in weeks. American doctrine proposes something stranger. Ignore the cities, strike the factories, destroy not the people, but the machines that enable the people to make war. It is a gambler's strategy, requiring absolute faith that your intelligence is correct, your targeting is accurate, and your bomb site works. Get it wrong. Hit apartment blocks instead of oil refineries, and you have simply committed atrocities less efficiently than the Luftwaffe. The August 17, 1943 raid on Schweinfurt tests that faith to destruction. The target is ball-bearing production. Germany manufactures 60% of its precision bearings in Schweinfurt's 5 factories. Destroy them, American planners calculate, and you halt panzer production, aircraft production, submarine production. You win the war from 25,000 feet. The mission requires flying 500 miles into Germany without fighter escort. P-47 Thunderbolts lack the range, then bombing through the heaviest anti-aircraft defenses in Europe. Of 230 B-17s that launch, 60 are shot down. 600 men, a loss rate of 26%, unsustainable by any military standard. But the bombardiers, dying in flaming wrecks, hold their bomb runs steady. The Norden sights track targets through flak that shreds aluminum like paper. Bombs impact. When reconnaissance photos return, analysts discover that 42% of Schweinfurt's ball-bearing production capacity has been destroyed in 7 minutes. 90 buildings struck out of 210 targeted. German bearing production drops by 34% nationwide within 2 weeks. Reichsminister Albert Speer, in his post-war interrogation, identifies Schweinfurt as the moment Germany's war economy began its terminal decline. If the Americans had returned one more time, he testifies, if they had struck again before we dispersed production, the war would have ended in 1944. But the Americans do not return, cannot return. Losses are catastrophic. The 8th Air Force stands down deep penetration raids for 3 months. 60 bombers, 60 Norden bombsights, gone. Except the bombsights are not gone. Before each B-17 plummeted, the bombardier destroyed his Norden. German forces recover fragments, molten metal, shattered gears. Not one intact sight. The desperation of that destruction, men choosing to die ensuring a device's secrets rather than saving themselves, haunts German intelligence assessments. Oberst Josef Beppo Schmid, Luftwaffe intelligence chief, writes in September 1943, "The Americans guard this bomb site with a fanaticism that suggests they understand its value exceeds the aircraft carrying it, perhaps exceeds the men operating it. They have created a mechanical advantage so profound they will accept any loss to prevent its compromise." He recommends Germany sue for conditional peace before American bomber production and Norden production combine to create an unstoppable industrial advantage. Göring files the report unread. By then, he is planning the defense of Berlin. What changes is not German capability, but German psychology. Through 1943 and 1944, Luftwaffe pilots and flak crews realize they are fighting not individual American bombers, but a system, a mechanical intellect that does not tire, does not doubt, does not deviate from mathematical certainty. On January 11, 1944, over Brunswick, Lieutenant Hans Joachim Jabs shoots down a B-17, watches it spiral, watches the bombardier bail out at 18,000 feet. Jabs is close enough to see the man's last action before exiting the disintegrating nose. Raising his pistol, firing 7 rounds into the Norden bombsight. The American then jumps into empty air, his duty complete. Jabs, a veteran of 200 combat missions, a Knight's Cross recipient, returns to base and requests 3 days' leave. In his debriefing, he states, "I have never seen this among our own men, this willingness to prioritize a device over their own survival. If a machine commands such loyalty, we are not fighting men. We are fighting a doctrine that has made them extensions of the machine." He is correct. American bombardiers train for 18 months before entering combat, longer than German fighter pilots. They spend 400 hours learning not just how to operate the Norden, but how to think like it, to merge their consciousness with its gyroscopic perception. At Bombardier School in Midland, Texas, instructors repeat a mantra. The Norden is never wrong. If the bomb misses, you input incorrect data. Trainees practice on the Norden's ground simulator, a 15-foot-long truck bed that moves beneath a mounted bomb sight, simulating flight. They practice until they can input wind speed, altitude, and airspeed in 12 seconds. They practice until they can recalibrate the sight with frostbitten fingers, in a shaking aircraft, with flak shrapnel piercing aluminum around them. They practice until the boundary between man and machine blurs, until releasing bombs becomes a reflex triggered not by conscious thought, but by the Norden's calculated certainty. The nickname pickle barrel enters American culture in 1943, from a boast made by a bombardier to a Stars and Stripes reporter. We can drop a bomb into a pickle barrel from 25,000 feet. The reporter prints it. The phrase appears in newspapers, in newsreels, in bond drive posters. It becomes American mythos, technological supremacy rendered in folksy metaphor. What the public does not see are the missions where clouds obscure targets, where equipment failures scatter bombs across farmland, where green bombardiers panic and release early. The Norden achieves its 90% accuracy only under ideal conditions. Clear skies, no battle damage, experienced operator. In actual combat operations over Europe, American accuracy averages 32%, bombs landing within 1,000 feet of aim point. This is still revolutionary. This is still 4 times better than any other nation's capability. But it is not the pickle barrel. The myth, however, matters more than the reality. By mid-1944, German factory workers live in terror of clear skies. Overcast provides safety. The Americans rarely bomb through clouds. Their doctrine demands visual confirmation of targets. But when weather clears, the workers hear sirens, hear the drone of 1,200 Wright Cyclone engines, and know that bombs will fall not randomly, but precisely. The Leuna synthetic oil plant near Leipzig is struck 7 times between May and December 1944. Each raid targets specific structures: catalytic crackers, storage tanks, distillation towers. German engineers repair damage, restart production. 3 weeks later, the Americans return and destroy the exact structures rebuilt, as if reading blueprints. This is the Norden's true psychological weapon. Inevitability. You cannot hide. You cannot harden targets enough. The mathematics will find you. Albert Speer mobilizes Germany's remaining industrial capacity to disperse production, moving ball-bearing factories into caves, camouflaging oil refineries, building decoy structures. It works, partially. But dispersal itself is a defeat. Concentrated factories achieve efficiency. Dispersed production in caves and forests operated by slave labor achieves survival, not output. By February 1945, German aviation fuel production has dropped to 12% of 1943 levels, not because refineries are destroyed, but because they are constantly damaged, constantly repairing, never achieving full operation. Panzer divisions sit idle for lack of replacement parts. New Messerschmitt fighters wait on airfields without fuel. The German war economy, designed for blitzkrieg, cannot adapt to a war of attrition waged from 25,000 feet by machines that calculate trajectories faster than human thought. The final irony emerges in post-war analysis. The Norden Bombsight, the device Germany feared as impossible, the weapon American bombardiers died protecting, achieves its doctrinal goal not through mechanical perfection, but through industrial mass production. Even at 32% combat accuracy, deploying 10,000 Norden bombsights across 5,000 heavy bombers creates a cumulative effect: 3,000 tons of ordnance daily, falling with statistical certainty onto German infrastructure. The math is brutal. If you can strike a target with 30% accuracy, you simply strike it 3 times. America can afford 3 times. Germany, by 1944, cannot afford once. Carl Norden does not live to see this outcome. He dies in 1965, bitter that his invention did not end war, but merely industrialized it. In his final interview, he admits, I believed precision would create restraint, that if nations could strike only military targets, they would avoid civilian casualties, and war would become humane, therefore intolerable. I did not foresee that precision simply allows you to destroy more, faster. His bombsight remains in production until 1945, with 14,000 units manufactured. After Japan surrenders, the secrecy classification is lifted. By 1950, the Norden is obsolete. Radar bombing and guided missiles render it a relic. The devices are melted down, the blueprints filed away. A handful survive in museums, behind glass, inert. But walk through the wreckage of any German city. The rebuilt factories of Schweinfurt, the reconstructed bridges of Brunswick, the memorial sites at Luna, and you find a peculiar pattern in the destruction. Buildings are not damaged randomly, but geometrically. Craters form lines, precise intervals, mathematical distributions. 75 years later, the Norden's signature is still visible, carved into earth and memory. The Germans called it impossible. The British called it American optimism. The bombardiers who died protecting it called it the most important 50 pounds in the war. What the Norden Bombsight represents, beyond gears and gyroscopes, is a distinctly American faith. That technology can impose order on chaos, that precision can substitute for brutality, that machines built by a democracy of machinists and engineers can outthink tyranny's war economy. It is a faith built on abundance of aluminum, of precision manufacturing, of young men trained for 18 months to become extensions of a mechanical brain. Germany possessed brilliant engineers, but it did not possess 600 machinists cutting gears in Barth manufacturing. It possessed excellent pilots, but it did not possess the industrial capacity to build 10,000 of anything that required jewel bearings and optical-grade gyroscopes. The Norden worked not because it was perfect, but because America could build 10,000 imperfect ones, ship them to England in Liberty ships built in 60 days, install them in B-17s constructed on assembly lines that produced 17 aircraft daily, and crew them with bombardiers graduating from training programs that taught 45,000 men to perform calculus at 25,000 feet while people shot at them. Precision as doctrine, abundance as strategy, mathematics as moral certainty. These are not German concepts. Goering understood war as will imposed through violence. Speer understood war as industrial output measured in tank production. Neither understood war as Carl Norden envisioned it. A physics problem solved by mechanical computation, delivered by men who trusted a machine's judgment over their own survival instinct. When Lieutenant James McCarthy lined up his crosshairs over Schweinfurt on August 17, 1943, when flak shredded the plexiglas around him and the B-17 shuddered from fighter cannon strikes, he did not aim the bombs. The Norden aimed the bombs. He simply confirmed what the machine already knew, that at this altitude, this airspeed, this wind condition, releasing now would place 2 tons of high explosive within 50 feet of the target. The bombardier's job was not to be accurate, but to trust accuracy embodied in brass and steel. This is what Germany called impossible, not the mechanism, but the philosophy. That a democracy could create a device requiring such precision that each unit demanded 3 months of specialized machining, then mass-produce 14,000 of them. That a nation could value accuracy over terror, could choose to strike ball-bearing plants instead of burning cities, could accept 26% casualties to maintain doctrinal purity. That young men from Nebraska and Alabama could be taught to think like analog computers, to remain calm while death blossomed around them, to destroy a $140,000 device rather, than let it fall intact into enemy hands. The impossibility was not technical. It was cultural. It was the impossibility that a nation built on grocery store abundance and assembly line efficiency could transform those same principles into a weapon that calculated bomb trajectories faster than human thought, and struck with such regularity that German factory workers prayed for clouds. In the end, the Norden Bombsight proved both Karl Norden and Hermann Göring correct. Göring was right that precision bombing at such altitude was theoretically impossible for Germany. For a nation fighting on 5 fronts, losing its skilled workforce to conscription, converting every factory to wartime expedients, the Norden might as well have been magic. But Norden was also right in a way he did not intend. His invention did not make war obsolete, but it made Germany's way of war obsolete. After 1943, no nation could wage industrial total war without confronting the possibility that an enemy might possess the capacity to strike not your armies, not your cities, but the specific factories, bridges, and refineries that enabled modern combat. War did not end. But war waged without air superiority, without the ability to protect your industrial base from mechanical precision delivered from altitudes beyond anti-aircraft reach, became suicide. The pickle barrel was a myth. But myths, delivered by 10,000 bomb sights mounted in 5,000 heavy bombers, crewed by 45,000 men trained to trust machines over instinct, sustained by a nation whose factories outproduce the world combined, such myths become reality through sheer repetitive force. The impossible manufactured 14,000 times ceases to be impossible. It becomes doctrine. And doctrine, applied with mathematical certainty across 3 years and 350,000 bomber sorties, reshapes continents. On the evening of August 17, 1943, Lieutenant James McCarthy returns to base, his B-17 held together by prayers and hydraulic fluid. He carries his Norden bombsight from the aircraft personally, cradled like an infant, and locks it in the vault himself. He has flown through hell for this machine. 60 bombers have not returned, 600 men gone. But reconnaissance photos confirm the ball bearings factories are burning. The Norden worked. It always worked when you trusted the mathematics over your fear. That night in the officers' club, someone asks McCarthy how it feels to operate the most important weapon in the war. He stares into his whiskey and says, "It doesn't feel like anything. The bombsight does the feeling. I just confirm what it already knows." This is the truth Germany could not accept, the impossibility that broke their defensive calculations. That America had built a weapon that did not require courage or hatred or ideology. It required only data, correct data, input by men trained to be accurate rather than heroic. The Norden bombsight did not win the war alone, but it won the argument about what war would become, an industrial contest where precision manufacturing, mass production, and mechanical calculation mattered more than individual valor. Germany entered World War II believing that will and ferocity would overcome material disadvantage. The Norden taught them otherwise, one mathematically perfect bomb run at a time, until the lesson was written in the rubble of every factory they could not hide, could not harden, could not save from a machine that saw through smoke and flak and distance to the single truth that mattered. At this altitude, this speed, this wind, release now, and mathematics will do the rest. The last Norden bombsight is removed from active service in 1963, replaced by radar systems that can bomb through clouds, through darkness, through any condition. But for 18 years after war's end, they remain in American strategic bombers, a hedge against electronic warfare, a mechanical backup that requires no electricity, no radar, just gyroscopes, and a man who knows how to read the mathematics of falling objects. When they are finally decommissioned, the Air Force melts most of them down, the secrecy classification still in effect. But in a museum in Dayton, Ohio, one survives behind armored glass, its brass gears frozen, its gyroscopes stilled. The placard reads, Norden Mark 15th Bombsight, Accuracy, 90% under test conditions. Production, 14,000 units. Classification, top secret until 1950. Impact, incalculable. Incalculable. Not because we cannot measure the factories destroyed or missions flown or tonnage delivered, but because we cannot quantify the psychological impact of fighting an enemy whose machines think faster than your engineers, whose industrial base can produce precision instruments at mass production scale, whose doctrine values accuracy you declared impossible. The Norden Bombsight's greatest achievement was not mechanical, but philosophical. It convinced Germany slowly through burning refineries and shattered ball-bearing plants and reconnaissance photos that showed impact patterns no human could achieve, that they were fighting not just a nation, but a system where machinists in New York and bombardiers over Brunswick and factories in Detroit formed a closed loop of precision manufacturing and precision destruction that could not be broken because it did not depend on genius or heroism or wonder weapons. It depended on 10,000 identical devices, each performing the same calculus, each arriving at the same conclusion, that in a contest between ideology and mathematics, mathematics wins. Every time, with 90% accuracy.